My name is Sarah Pottharst. I'm a fashion designer and I am an outlier.
Welcome to Outlier on Air with Ever Gonzalez, the show where we interview the founders, disruptors, and mavens of the world. Learn how grit, failure, and success are all a part of the entrepreneurial journey.
Hey everybody, welcome to Outlier on Air, the podcast where we interview founders, disruptors, and mavens. As always, I'm your host, Ever Gonzalez. On today's episode, we have Sarah Pottharst. She is the founder and designer at Per Vigore. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Now, did I pronounce the company correctly? Probably not, right? I'm sure I was way off.
Yes. Per Vigore.
Perfect. That sounds
That's
much.
With a little bit of Italian jazz to it.
That sounds much better coming from you, for sure.
Thank you.
Now, welcome to the show. Tell us where you're calling us from.
I'm calling from Verona, Italy.
Now, what is the entrepreneurial scene, the startup scene, business in general out there in Italy right now? What's it feel like? What's it look like?
That's a very interesting question because a lot of Italy, I feel like, is sort of halted by some antiquated systems that they have in their bureaucracy, and it throws a lot of hurdles towards even just people living there who want to start a company. And so it's quite a new adventure to be a foreigner starting a company there. But the good news is that there's a lot of work to reform it within the younger generations, the people who are in their 20s and 30s, or some organizations that are trying their best to navigate it better and hopefully change the process a little bit. So there's not as much startup as, for example, coming from the United States. It's a little bit behind in that way, but it's moving forward.
So you're an American. You decided to move out there earlier this year, if I remember correctly. And, you're kind of talking about it's not as fluid or as intense as it might be in other cities, other locations. Why start there then?
It was a combination of kind of serendipitous factors. I initially came to Verona in February on just personal reasons, kind of exploring a new path professionally, taking a break, and sort of figuring things out in my life. And I chose Verona just as the start of that. It was a town that I was kind of enchanted by. It's incredibly romantic and beautiful. And while I was here, the idea came to me. And I knew that if I was lucky, I could hopefully find a career path that kept me in Europe. And as the idea came to me and I was looking more into it and the prospects of having it happen here in Verona, like I said, there's a lot of work to sort of change the system and make it more open to new enterprises. And in Verona, there were such people who were so helpful for me. And so that really made Verona, for me, the ideal spot because I had so much support going forward.
We'll get into your company, what it is, how it works, what you want to do with it here in just a sec. But let's talk about what the future is going to look like for you personally. Is Verona going to be it for you for a while until this kind of gets off the ground and is running like a well-oiled machine, or what's the plan there?
Italy for sure.
Long term?
Long term, as I see it for now, yeah. Long term It could be, but luckily Italy is so easy to get around to different cities by train, and so I enjoy Venice very much. It's very close to here. I enjoy going to Milan, and for now, I enjoy keeping things in Verona because it definitely has a fashion scene here, as Milan, not as big, but it does have a fashion scene, and it's just absolutely charming. So for now, yeah.
Okay, so your background's in fashion, like we mentioned. You're a designer. This new company, Per Vigore. I'm sure I'm doing it wrong, but
great.
Tell us about it. What's the plan there? There's a little bit of a twist, right? It's not your typical fashion company startup. You are doing something a little bit different. Why don't you kind of let the listeners in as to your mindset and why you're starting this?
Trying to figure out how to begin. Essentially, if I offer the twist first, I'll offer the twist first. Okay, so the twist is this. The twist is it's women's wear that has insect repellent. And this is because there's a lot of growth in clothing that has more function than simply being pretty. And in that growth, you'll see certain chemical enhancements in the fibers, and some that are really beneficial. For instance, the insect repellent with the current situation of Zika. And this became even more apparent, this idea of creating clothes that weren't meant just for hiking or fishing as insect repellent currently is being implemented, but to use it for everyday wear. And back when I had first moved to Verona in the early spring, my older brother, whose wife was pregnant at the time, they had both called me and said, we have this idea for you. And I know you're looking for a path, one that has some more meaning and more of an impact. And we think this is something worth checking out. So I listened to their thoughts, and basically the concern was, especially as a pregnant woman living in the south of the United States, where Zika is spreading up from South America through Central America, and ultimately it's currently in Miami. There's quite a few red zones, and they were living in the south, and they both work in the field of medicine conveniently. And they had said, look, my sister-in-law, I'm afraid to go outside with the concern of being bitten, especially as a pregnant woman. I don't even want to go from my front door to the car. I don't want to go to work in the morning. And my only other option is to wear a fishing shirt, for protection. And I'm a doctor. She's like, what can we do here? How do I offer the solution and still provide that same protection? And it was true. I did some market research, and there's some aerobic wear, but there's nothing that's truly beautifully made, tailored to fit a body, anybody, which you can make. It's a possible design, but to make it with better purpose, not just like, okay, here's a white t-shirt, but how can you make that white t-shirt indispensable to that person, and how can it impact their lives in a positive way?
Yeah. When I read the concept, I was thinking bulky, shirts that are I'm sure not flattering to women,
Right.
but here you are, right? You are trying to make it flattering and everyday wear, and they can take it to work, they can wear it to work, they can go out, to dinner in your wearing your line, right?
That's exactly right. And I think it's also important to realize that this clothing isn't just for pregnant women. It's for any woman, because if you think about it, a woman's body doesn't change for many months and in the pregnancy. And you want this garment to have a full life cycle, which means it fits a regular body, meaning a non-pregnant woman, as well as a pregnant woman. These designs are meant to transform and expand and offer you that space as you need it with time, but it can also pinch in a little bit where it helps as your body goes back to normal. So I think it's important for a lot of garments, especially with fast fashion nowadays, to really think about the life cycle. It's not meant to be for the style of the next 2 months. It's meant to really last you, So I think that's a huge concern of fashion, is the growing waste with fast fashion. I think it's important to really put forth your money and your style to fashion that has a full life cycle.
So now you haven't launched yet, and you're getting pretty close to launching. We'll talk about that in just a sec. But when you do launch, is it going to be? I don't know much about fashion or how it works or anything like that. And forgive me if I'm not using the right term. But are you going to be using? Is it going to be one piece of clothing or like one shirt? Or are you going to have a variety of different styles and garments that you're going to be pushing out the first round?
Sure. It's going to be a capsule collection, which entails a small amount of designs. It's basically meant to just kind of set the standard for what the classic tailored fits will be. And every piece goes back to itself. So whereas you have a certain shape with seams in a particular way, you'll find the same correlation from a dress to a shirt, so that your items can kind of go back to one another. And you'll notice how a certain pair of pants will pair back to a shirt nicely, or a skirt and vice versa, or how, all of the seams, the waist seam and everything coordinates with say, a particular jacket I've made. So it's meant to kind of provide you with that basic closet collection of the necessary garments.
Are you, when you launch, tell us about the launch date and what that's going to look like when you are up and running?
Well, to be honest, I hope the Italians don't kill me for saying this, but in some moments they're not always the quickest. So I love this because I believe that everyone needs a little bit of leisure, but as
But you're trying to run a company
I come
too,
from
right?
New York and I'm used to some snappiness, Um, I believe the launch is going to be end of December, and that's really what I'm pushing for. So with a bit of luck, you'll see Per Vigore online with some clothes ready to go.
And so who I know you mentioned that Miami kind of has some hot spots when it comes to the what is it? How do you pronounce it? Zinke?
Zika.
Zika, right? That you're trying to fight. Now, is this going to be? So, are you targeting like South America and some like African countries, or is this for like a housewife in Salt Lake City?
The interesting thing about this is we are going to be target our marketing first, starting through the southern U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And because we're really trying to gauge the need for it too. Who wants to buy? These are tailored garments made in Italy. I mean, they're also not cheap because in order to create these really fine styles, you have to pay for it, for it to really flatter you. This isn't going to be, God bless Walmart, but it's not going to be Walmart. It's going to be tailored garments. And so that's also, this collection is going to kind of be a gauge, and we can move and really expand our target customer further as time goes on. But for the initial target marketing, we're probably going to go towards the hotspots, what are, the news and the CDC, all these organizations and the news organizations are calling the hotspots where they've reported the outbreaks. But this isn't to say that someone in North Dakota wouldn't love my dress. I would love for them to love my dress, and they're welcome to have it. So I guess we'll see how that goes.
How big is the team now, and how big is the team going to be in a year from now?
The team is still quite small. I'm definitely being the jack of all trades right now, but
like most startups, yes.
Like most startups, but I have a lovely team in the production area, based in Como and based in Italy, and they're wonderful. They're delightful, always pretty happy guys, try their best to get things in on time and make production go smoothly. The other team members are some people who are actually some of my closest friends in New York. We all kind of evolved and circulated in the fashion industry. So I have some good friends in the PR realm and the social media realm, and we're all kind of gearing up for it. And they've very, very kindly offered their services. So the team's expanding little by little.
Nice. Now, I know that your brother and your sister-in-law kind of brought this to your attention, and it's a little bit of a twist, and you can do some very good things with kind of following this mission. But I mean, truly, you've been in Paris, you've lived in Paris, you've lived in New York. You could be designing like high-end stuff and selling it to like tall, beautiful people. And again, you talked about your brother and your sister-in-law kind of bringing this to your attention, but why this? Why now? I mean, truly, you can be doing anything in the world right now. Is it that there's a niche, or is it that you're passionate about this? What's the true story behind getting into this right now?
I think it's been a growth process. I can't say it's always been a dream to say, I want something that has a broader purpose than simply looking pretty.
Sure.
To be honest, when I was little, I wanted to create pretty things, and that was the primary goal. And even when I first moved to New York and I went to Parsons School of Design and got the fashion design degree there, it was still about, creating the trendiest style or the coolest cut. And then I went on to work at Oscar de la Renta, and I worked with his runway team for about 6 seasons. And then I went on to design his lingerie and sleepwear. And I have to say, those are two completely different realms. I mean, you're seeing the gorgeous, chic-y and the really almost like secretive life of runway and, nose turns up. And then you get to this lingerie and sleepwear, and it's so relaxed, but it's also a lower price point and it's a lower budget. And I really got the two different ends of the spectrum. I got the chicy, hard to get to runway, and I also went down to the mass market, and I saw both sides of it. And it was interesting, somewhere between, flowing between the high end and the low end, I sort of kind of became less glammed by the idea of creating design for the sake of design. I was sort of losing my passion in it. I felt like I'd kind of seen it all, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed something that was more inspiring. And that's where the block began, is when I was working in the mass market realm, and I was just feeling like I was losing it and kind of wondering what I was doing. I knew I loved design, but the purpose of it was kind of feeling lost. So that's why I think I needed this better, bigger, broader impact associated with it.
Well, that's exciting. And, and you mentioned earlier too, and maybe this is kind of leading into it, that you were in Italy in the beginning to kind of find yourself, whether it was professionally or spiritually or just, to your core. What got you out there to begin with? And is this part of you finding yourself?
Definitely is. Definitely was a finding myself moment and deciding to move out here. I initially came out to Italy with the idea of using this platform online called Workaway. And it's a word of mouth platform. It's really interesting. You basically volunteer your skills for food and a place to stay. And I found some work here in Verona. And my idea, which I didn't really fully carry out, but it was just as a means of moving forward. My idea was to kind of travel between different cities and look at different design studios and see how they could be offering differences in design that have a beneficial impact in society or with the environment, to see where the inspiration might come up for me personally. And the first one I came to was here in Verona. And that was definitely that moment of finding myself in it. I was very lucky to say that I kind of did. I found myself here.
And it kind of sounds like it, and it shows with what we've done a little bit of research, and then just talking to you now. So now that you kind of have this purpose, maybe you found yourself like you mentioned. What is the hardest part of what you're doing right now, trying to kind of get this company off the ground to launch whenever you want it to launch? What do you struggle with right now?
It would definitely have to be an even split between keeping finances at a set budget, not going over, which is very difficult because I've never been a number person. So for me, this is a new experience. And secondarily, it's the Italian bureaucracy. It's just, I didn't speak the language when I moved here. In general, I've never started a company, obviously, and there's just a different dynamic that I'm learning. So these are the two obstacles for sure.
Yeah, that was going to be the next question, trying to figure out, you're a designer, you've been in fashion now, right? Now you're trying to start this company, you're trying to run this company. Is that going to kind of take some of the passion away from designing, or is this kind of just flow into your whole purpose and what you're trying to accomplish?
It's interesting you say that, because recently I've been wondering this question myself, but I think it's easy to say. Many people, at least I know in the creative field, and I can't speak for others, but in the creative field, we're very much dreamers. And when you put reality in our face, we kind of really have to sit down and stare and think about it and figure out the next move. It's a little bit, traumatizing to say, but the dream was so nice. The reality of moving forward to get there is so difficult. Oh my gosh. But, I think that the bridge that kind of makes it the enjoyable part is realizing that it's a learning process along the way. And there's going to be a moment at the end of that where you see everything that you've done and you can look back and say, I've learned all of this stuff. And you'll know that at the end of that, you're going to make the product that you've been dreaming about. And it may not be exactly how you wanted, but I think that part of it is what drives me to kind of disregard the fact that, like, in this very moment, I'm not creating clothes. I'm starting a company. But at the end of this, the product is going to be so much worth it.
And that good luck. That's difficult, right? I mean, I love music, but I can't see myself working like in the music industry because I would be afraid that the magic or the passion would, like, I don't know, wither away. But here you are, you're trying to run this company with something you're passionate about, and I guess if you can keep it in perspective like you just described, you can go a long way because now you're pretty much steering the ship, right, in whichever direction you want. It's not always going to be easy, but you can do it, right? And that's exciting, and there's no doubt that we're going to want to keep in touch and see where this goes. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Is it difficult being young, a woman, doing what you're doing anywhere, but let alone in Italy?
That's a funny question. I think in my industry maybe makes a difference because there's quite a few
That is
women
true. That is true.
in it. And I think being young is an advantage because I think I'm surrounded with a lot of people who still have passion, who don't feel disenchanted, who still have belief that they can make something work. I feel like I'm surrounded by so much energy with being my age, with other people my age. I don't know if I would have the same luck 20 years from now.
Sure.
So I think maybe these things are to my advantage, but it could all be just kind of circumstantial luck.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana.
What was that like? Did you always know that you were a designer and were going to design something from an early age?
I always dabbled with designing. I had a sketchbook when I was little, and I'm sure everybody's fully aware New Orleans is known for its Mardi Gras,
Oh,
and this
absolutely.
entails nothing but the most glamorous dresses every year. So, I could say that might have also had an impact on maybe the growing passion of design.
And then entrepreneurship, is it just why not have a partner that runs the business while you focus on the design? Was entrepreneurship in your blood as well, or is this completely new to you that you're learning as you go right now?
Definitely learning as I go right now. I think maybe why I don't have a partner is because I'm a little bit of a control freak.
Good for you. Nothing wrong with that.
I'm definitely a little bit of a control freak, and I like to understand what's going on with each moving part. Mm-hmm. With time, as I can relax, but this is such a stressful beginning period that I feel so much more comfortable understanding and learning with the process as opposed to handing something off.
That's good that right? I think as entrepreneurs we kind of struggle sometimes. I consider myself a little bit of a control freak as well, but I've learned throughout the years to kind of let go and delegate as I grow and as I move. But it's still very difficult. I think that's
a skill too.
What's that?
I mean, really, that's such a skill
Sure.
that hopefully with time I'll learn.
But you read some of these books, and so you follow some of these other entrepreneurs that never really did either learn or care to learn or want to anyway. I'm not, I'm okay with being who I am and how I am. That I kind of need the control, and it sounds like you're there with me a little bit as well. So congrats and good luck with that.
Yeah, air high five for sure.
That's right. But if you have a good team around you, that's you can be taken care of as well that way. And
there's certain areas that for instance, the areas that I have delegated to, I definitely feel comfortable with. And so I think with time, as I start to connect with professionally with more experienced hands, then everything will sort of fall into place. But I think the one thing I'm cautious of is to not put it in hands hastily, just to alleviate stress. So, maybe that's where the control freak comes from.
That's okay. So now, other than design or being a designer, what do you do best? What are you the best at?
Oh my gosh, what a question. I don't know if I've ever been asked, not other than design, just in general.
Because I'm assuming you're really good and awesome at that, but so other than that?
Planning. I would definitely say planning. I could plan a party. I can plan a trip abroad for a gazillion friends. We've done this a couple years in a row now. Down to the T, going on a trip in December again to Asia, planning, just whatever it may be. I think maybe that's part of the tools that are helping right now. I
Yeah.
never really thought about that. I
Well, that's
love
going to come in
planning.
handy, right? With this company, planning is definitely
Yeah.
going to be something you're going to need to use. So it looks like I don't know. It sounds like you're off to a great start. Obviously, you know what you're doing. The clothing is being taken care of, and you're kind of putting it together. Now it's just going to be the marketing, right? Getting it out to the world. How do you
Mhm.
see yourself doing that? How are the rest? How are the masses going to know about this when you launch?
Well, it is 2016, so got to have a social media set in place, that's for sure. Definitely gonna have to rely heavily on that, especially with fashion. It's such a visual
Sure.
product. I
Oh,
mean,
for sure.
people with fashion bloggers, even, it's gonna be a lot of social media platforms, but also it's important, I think, to incorporate SEO, drop pixels of Facebook to make sure that it keeps reappearing in people's face, and then good old classic magazine placements.
Which you
For
can do.
those
Good.
Yeah, which I mean, for some people, I still love to pick up magazines and touch those glossy pages. I don't know. There's a lot of people out there still, but some of us do.
You know, there's magazines are amazing. I just like you. I still like picking them up. You know, I do a lot of my reading online, but there's something about holding a cool looking magazine with a good
Hmm.
article and great pictures that can't be
Yeah,
easily replaced.
I agree. I agree. So
Okay, so
I think that's what we'll do.
and so as we wrap this down, what you've done quite a bit. Obviously, you know, being in New York and Paris and all your travels, and then now in another country, starting this new company and this whole new mission that you have behind you. You must have learned a few things along the way. For my audience who's listening to your story, who likes what you're doing, can somewhat relate. What kind of advice overall would you have for them? Something that can take them to, you know, get them started or get them to the next level. Something that you've learned in your journey.
I think that probably one of the most important things that I learned was, for example, when I branched into like lingerie and sleepwear, I didn't know that that was going to be something I wanted to do, and it wasn't something I wanted to do as it turns out. But I think it's important to explore all of these opportunities because there's so many people who just stay on one path and they're too scared to try it in case of failing. And then you're just always going to wonder, God, I would have been such a good writer, or,
Mhm.
I just really love soccer. And whatever it may be, I think there's a difference in people. Some people think it's silly to dream certain things. And then there's some people who think, why not? And I tend to promote the idea, why not? For me, if you can show the strength to absorb those failures and still move forward, I think it's always worth it to explore those options.
I love it. That's good advice. And so at the end of the day, right, when all of this is said and done, when we remember you, right, when people that you know that you love remember you, how do you want to be remembered?
Uh, oh my gosh. I wasn't expecting some of these questions. Um,
Good. I'm glad you weren't expecting them. We get honest answers that way from people.
you're gonna get a truly honest answer. How would I like to be remembered? I guess it seems really quite simple, but just someone who cared. You know what I mean? I think there's some people in your life you come across and you kind of wonder, like, who they're doing things for. Is it just for themselves, or what even your purpose is? And I'm someone, I genuinely, truly care. I care about my friends. I care about my family. I even care about my work and who it impacts.
Hmm.
So I think maybe that's something that I would like to leave with.
That's a great answer. Right, we get all kinds of answers. I want to be known as the best CEO or whatever, the best founder. But then there's a lot of people that I want to be remembered as somebody who cared, who gave back, blah blah blah. That's a great answer. Good for you. I love it. I'm glad that we kind of caught you off guard a little bit with that, and you obviously answered it honestly, and that's something that I think a lot of our listeners are gonna be able to connect with. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for the awesome questions.
Now, as those that are listening want to connect with you, where can we find you online?
My website, it's ready for launch. It's pervigore.com. And as launch happens, we'll then start accordingly opening up the social media accounts. You'll see those shortly. But for now, that's the website to stay tuned for purchasing soon. So
perfect. And so Outliers, you can go to outliermagazine.co. That's outliermagazine.co. We're going to have the show notes page there for Sarah, links to the website, social media accounts. We'll keep updating it as they become available, so keep checking on it. Sarah, this has been really amazing. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us,
thank
telling us
you
about
for
your
your
project,
time.
your passion. No doubt that our audience has enjoyed and will continue to enjoy your words of wisdom. So thank you.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
So Outliers, we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Sounds great. Bye.